It's been over a week now since we had this announcement from President Donald Trump about going to war with Iran.
The United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives.
And what were the objectives of this war?
Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime.
Okay.
A vicious group of very hard, terrible people.
Since the announcement, this group of terrible people have been killed in their thousands, many of them children, as it was in Gaza, and a few American bodies and Israeli bodies are now starting to show up. But my question is, why this attack? Why this war? One idea runs that it was a preemptive attack in order to prevent a nuclear war, i.e., prevent Iran from getting nuclear bombs,
which was to prevent World War III or an all-out nuclear war from starting.
A counter-argument to this was that there was no official threat. There was no threat from Iran at all.
There was no imminent threat to the United States of America by the Iranians.
The other idea is that it's about regime change, and this was going to help Iranians get a new democratic government. I was listening to a comedian, D.L. Hughley, and this is his take on regime change.
But literally, in the last 6 months, the President of the United States of America has murdered the leader of one country and kidnapped the leader of another. And he's done it in the name of regime change. But at the same time, he's changing regimes around the world. He's trying to concoct a way to not let his country vote. So he wants regimes to change everywhere around the world except him. And the American people, by and large, are rejecting what he's doing. They don't like what's happening right now. They don't like his stance on immigration. They don't like his tariffs. They don't like this war.
Well, here's his direct quote about the war and why. He said, "We were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that."
Let's listen to Marco Rubio explaining why he felt so strongly about this preemptive attack.
Was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so, there would have been hearings on Capitol Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen, and we didn't act preemptively to prevent more casualties and more loss of life.
All right. He also felt strongly about the Central Park 5. He also felt strongly about, January 6th. But the American president, when poll numbers is down, always bombs somebody black or brown.
I wonder where we've seen this type of interference before. Let's have story time, ladies and gentlemen. From History Archives 01, or
In 1953, Iran had a democracy. Their Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, decided Iranian oil should belong to Iranians, not British companies. So the CIA launched Operation Ajax, overthrowing Iran's democracy overnight. They installed the Shah as a dictator to protect Western oil profits. But here's the problem. The Shah had no real support from his people. So he created SAVAK, a brutal secret police that tortured anyone who opposed him. The Shah forced rapid westernization on a traditional society, banning Islamic customs while living in luxury. This created massive anger among religious Iranians who felt their culture was under attack. The more brutal the Shah became, the more people hated America for putting him in power. When revolution finally came in 1979, Iranians chose the most anti-American leader possible, Ayatollah Khomeini. America's plan to stop Soviet influence backfired completely, creating the Islamic Republic that hates America more than the Soviets ever did. Foreign interference always backfires.
So even though some of the Iranian diaspora are celebrating all over California, we can say regime change is now out of the question. So now people are saying this could be a deflection from the Epstein files. Other people are saying what's in the Epstein files is partly what's causing the war. Let's have a look at what this gentleman named Chaim Breseth Zabna has to say about this on the Kate Hapler show.
And we have to ask ourselves a simple question. Why? What was he collecting all this for? Is an amateur collector of emails, of spicy pictures, sexy behavior, and worse? I don't think this was just a madness of Epstein. It was functional. He was collecting evidence. Now, who was he collecting evidence for? Some people are trying to hide their tracks by saying that he was collecting evidence for Russia.
Oh my God.
This is basically a mafia collection of evidence about people that can be used by those who have the evidence. He's entrapped not just by the Epstein button, but by the Zionist millionaires and billionaires who are financing him, all the gifts that he has collected. And now he is a prisoner of a whole system, which for the first time is very visible. It's very difficult to deny it. And he is very worried. He's doing his best to keep the last bit of thousands and thousands of files, which include him, invisible.
To further confirm this thesis, there's another show I saw called Breaking Point, where they surmised that Netanyahu went to America, and it was then he convinced Trump that they need to strike Iran.
Netanyahu come to, visit Trump in December. And it looks like that's when they made the decision, like, okay, we're going to go to war. And in my opinion, all the negotiations were totally fake, as evidenced by the fact that they sent two guys who really didn't know what they were talking about in order to lead these alleged negotiations. And of course, while you're in the midst of these negotiations and the Iranians have just given up more concessions than they have ever have, that's the moment when you choose to actually start the war.
And even stalwarts like Tucker Carlson are now accusing Trump and Israel of trying to foment this chaos.
It really, really hurts these countries. And Israel wanted to hurt these countries. That's the point. Wanted to sow chaos and disorder because they are rivals of Israel. So it's probably hasn't been reported, but it's a fact that last night in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, authorities arrested Mossad agents planning on committing bombings in those countries. Now, that's weird. That doesn't make any sense. Why would the Israelis be committing bombings in two Gulf countries, which are also being attacked by Iran? Aren't they on the same side? No. Israel wants to hurt Iran and Qatar and UAE and Saudi and Bahrain and Oman and Kuwait.
So it appears Israel wants to cause chaos around the Gulf states and maybe go for a land grab in order to protect itself from being surrounded by all these Arabs. And we know this because Netanyahu, the Prime Minister Netanyahu, has been going on about this, banging on about this for years. So in 1996, we were extremely close. Roll the clip.
The deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close.
In 2000, it was 15 years away.
And Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that they hope will reach the eastern seaboard of the United States within 15 years.
In 2012, it was next year.
By next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks.
By the time we got to 2015, it was weeks away.
The foremost sponsor of global terrorism could be weeks away from having enough enriched uranium for an entire arsenal of nuclear weapons. That would place a militant Islamic terror regime weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
It's now 2026, and they still don't have full nuclear power. His more recent reason is that he can't afford not to be Prime Minister of Israel, because as soon as he steps down, he's definitely going to court, then to jail. So it is in best interest to foment war and chaos so that Israel carries on being on an emergency footing and there's no need for any election to take place. So who's the victim here? Who's the aggressor? Iran or Israel? Let's listen to this clip from Mehdi Hassan of Zeteo.
If you're watching Western media coverage, you might come away with the impression that Iran attacked Israel out of the blue and Israel is responding, when it's the other way around. We all saw on Thursday night that it was Israel that launched an illegal act of aggression against Iran. Iran is the victim here, Israel is the aggressor, but in the Western media coverage, Israel is the victim always.
Why isn't Iran allowed to have their own nuclear weapons? Why is Israel allowed to have its own weapons?
It's a nuclear double standard that I raised with former Israeli Deputy Foreign Minister Danny Ayalon.
How many nuclear weapons does Israel have? Because experts say it's anywhere between 80 and 400.
So what?
So what?
Yeah, so what? Has Israel ever threatened?
Do you recognize the hypocrisy of Israel having a secret illicit nuclear weapons program that it won't open up its doors to and won't talk about, and then lecturing everyone else in the region about nuclear weapons?
Absolutely not. You know why?
You talked about hypocrisy. Let me ask again. If an Iranian guest came on my show and I asked him about Iran's nuclear program, he said, I don't know, I'm not going to talk about it. Would you be okay with that? You'd be outraged.
Of course
and
I
yet
would
you
be.
sit here as a former minister of the Israeli government saying, I don't know, never talked about nukes with anyone.
Because there was like 16 United Nations Security Council resolutions against Iran.
And there is against Israel. And there is against Israel as well.
About
your nuclear
issues?
program?
No.
Yes, there is. UN Resolution 487. Let me read it to you. The UN Security Council in 1981 says, calls upon Israel urgently to place its nuclear facilities under the safeguards of the IAEA. Why haven't you done that?
Why indeed? But you know who they never mess with? North Korea, Pakistan, Russia, and various other countries who already have this nuclear apparatus. I was confused on why America finally went to war with Iran. He was explaining a couple of months ago why America invaded Venezuela. And he made a follow-up video straight away saying Iran was next. And of course, he was right. This are the 4 points he made why this war was always going to happen. Let me roll the clip. His theory goes that one of the reasons this war is happening is that neocons, the military industry, want to show their weapons in front of a worldwide audience. So these neocons have been pushing for this demonstration for years.
Israel wanted Iran's regime gone, and they got it with American firepower, American service members, and American money. And in the grand context of power, who does this benefit? It benefits the military-industrial complex, which some people call the neocons. B-2 bombers, Tomahawk cruise missiles, F-22s, F-35s. This has all been shown on every news network and social media in the world. You could not buy this kind of advertising. Every country watching this is now thinking about what they need to buy, either to do what America just did or to defend against it. That is worth hundreds of billions of dollars in future sales and billions more in stock appreciation. Because we know war is good for business. From the military-industrial complex perspective, is that this operation was a live product demonstration.
Second theory, which goes back to the Venezuela thing, is that this is a proxy war against China. They were tired of China getting cheap oil from Venezuela, tired of China getting silver from South America. They're scared of China paying for everything in yuan, which means they're sidestepping the dollar. And America cannot afford to let the dollar slide by.
The reason why all of this is happening has all to do with China. Because the number one goal of the United States right now is to destabilize the rise of China's economy. How do we know this? We know this because this was documented in the Monroe Doctrine, like the Monroe Doctrine, but Donald Trump's version. The way to disrupt China's economy and get leverage is, for example, cutting China off the cheap oil they were getting from Venezuela, and the cheap silver they were getting from Latin America, and now the cheap oil they were getting from Iran. This is where something called the Strait of Hormuz comes in. But about a quarter of the world's supply of oil passes through this tiny little point. And as of right now, it's shut down. Traffic has dropped 70%. There's over 150 ships just sitting there waiting. And insurance companies have suspended their coverage, which is basically a financial kill switch. Because if you can't get insurance, they can't ship their oil to places like China. So as a result, oil has gone up in price. And analysts are saying if this close lasts more than a couple weeks, we could see $100 or higher for a barrel of oil. What hurts Iran hurts China because China buys a lot of Iranian oil. So from a sovereign powers perspective, right? So from the perspective of the United States, this is a strategic win because it makes China more dependent on US oil. But this also benefits the dollar because oil is still priced in dollars.
Number 3, apparently it's to benefit the financial industrial complex. Those that donated over $635 million to Donald Trump's campaign for 2024, which includes people like Elon Musk, Timothy Mellon, Paul Singer, Robert Bigelow. They always want to control, they always want to have their stranglehold on every financial atom going and leave nothing for the common man, which takes us back again to Bitcoin.
The third theory is that this is all to benefit the financial industrial complex, which are the real powers behind the people who got the president elected. So who am I talking about specifically? This is the big money donors. This is a list of Trump's top 20 donors. There's $635 million in total. Look at this as a map of every interest we just talked about. For example, number 1, Timothy Mellon, old banking and transportation dynasty, financial industrial complex. Number 2, Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX, Starlink, XAI. His companies hold billions and billions in Pentagon contracts, and his AI company just entered a program to build autonomous drone swarms for the military. That's the technological industrial complex and the military industrial complex in one person. So that's theory and power player number 3.
Another theory is that the tech companies, especially the AI companies like Claude AI, are now being used in autonomous weapons. When the owner of Anthropic went on after the Venezuela attack to say he doesn't want his company's AI technology to be used against vulnerable people, he was castigated and labeled as an anti-US company. But OpenAI stepped in, and they're now providing the technology for American AI.
Because this is the 4th theory, and it is by far the most interesting one. It's going to tie all of this together. This theory says the reason why all of this is happening is because of the technological industrial complex's digital control grid. So let me tell you something crazy that just happened. The US military used an AI called Claude, made by a company called Anthropic. It was used to help plan these strikes for target identification, battle simulations, and intelligence analysis.
Sources tell CBS News the U.S. military used Claude for its attack on Iran over the weekend. Now, the Pentagon's ongoing use of Anthropic's AI model comes despite a falling out with the company over its refusal to grant the military unrestricted access to the technology.
Which means we are now living in a time when AI helps plan a war. Like, just sit with that for a second. That is crazy. Here's where it gets crazier. Just hours after the strikes, Trump signed an executive order banning federal agencies from using Anthropic's technology. Why was it banned? It was banned because the CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, publicly said no to the government. He said no to fully autonomous weapons and mass domestic surveillance. The US responded by saying, all right, you are now a supply chain risk to national security. That's a label normally reserved for foreign companies, but this has never been used against a US company before. And on the exact same day, OpenAI, which is Anthropic's biggest competitor, signed a deal with the Pentagon.
Now, hours after the Trump administration ditched Anthropic over the dispute, OpenAI swooped in and struck its own deal with the Pentagon.
So the message to every AI company in the world right now is that if you say yes to the military and yes to the US government, you will get the contract. But if you say no, you will be treated like a foreign enemy. When Iran retaliated, one of their targets was Amazon Web Services data centers in the UAE and Bahrain, not military bases. Iran attacked the cloud computing infrastructure.
AWS has confirmed objects struck the site. Sparks, fire, the UAE Fire Department cut the power to the entire building.
That is the first time in history that commercial data centers have been physically targeted. People are calling this the beginning of techno-feudal wars, where the military uses AI to plan the attack and the enemy retaliates by bombing the servers. Which means our digital and physical worlds are now colliding.
So there you are. Those are probably the real reasons why America stepped into this war and why Israel stepped into this war. And that's why they're making it confusing, because they don't want us to understand the real reason. Because obviously it boils down to greed, power, and global imperialism. I hope that's all very clear to you now, because it's very clear to me. And if it's not really clear to you, let's take a look at this guy, Professor Jiang's clips. Roll the clip.
World War III is meant to be the last and final war of all human history, because whoever wins this war will control the very soul of human existence. The game that you think they're playing is not the game they're playing. The reward that you think they want is not the reward that they want, okay? We think in terms of material things, okay? So money, resources, power. We think that the war is being fought over these things, and it's not. The real power, the real currency, human consciousness. This war is being fought to control the consciousness of the human race, because it is our consciousness that creates reality itself. That's the source of all wealth and all power in this world.
This is Alexander F. Onilere. Please like and subscribe and help me get my channel up, now that I'm quite comfortable doing them almost weekly.